Good lunch? All right. Given the context, they're taking pretty good care of you, aren't they?
Very well.
All right. I know that the sheriff and his staff have gone out of their way. They realize that this is a hardship, but they're doing what they can to make it as pleasant as possible. So I commend he and his staff. Let's call our next witness.
VIVEROS.
Well, you're going to have to set something down, then raise your right
Yes, sir.
hand.
Yes, sir.
Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Be seated, state first and last name, and spell it for the benefit of the court reporter.
Arthur, A-R-T-H-U-R, then initial G for Gregory, last name Viveros, V as in Victor, I, V as in Victor, E-R-O-S.
Thank you. Proceed.
And how were you employed back in April of 2011?
I was a special agent with the FBI.
Okay, and were you involved in the disappearance of Holly Bobo?
Yes, I was.
And what role did you take in that case?
I was the case agent for the FBI,
Okay.
the lead agent
Lead agent?
for the FBI.
Okay. And did you participate in the investigation of Terry Britt?
Yes,
Okay. And did you participate in the search of his house?
yes.
Okay. And what significant items did you take note of in the search of Mr. Britt's house?
Well, there were numerous things. I don't have any documents. It's totally off the top of my head.
Sure.
They vacuumed the vehicles. Our forensic people, team, ERT people, evidence response team went out there, vacuumed the vehicles for hairs and fibers. We entered all the buildings. The TBI, am I speaking for the TBI? Because they took the evidence. We did certain things, but they took other things, and like I said, that's my memory.
Just what was significant to you?
Because it was their search warrant, that we helped them.
Right, but like this, talk about the tools. I think earlier you mentioned something about tools when we were talking. So what do you remember about the tools?
Again, it's by memory. We had a cadaver dog team go out there from the academy, from Quantico, and they did hit on some tools, some shovels, and they also hit on some of the one of the vans,
Okay.
and there was a blonde hair found in one of the vans,
Okay.
and they seized even a ponytail
From
that belonged to Terry Britt. He used to have a ponytail,
Okay.
long hair. I think TBI sees also a receipt from the safe that Janet Britt opened for us, a receipt when they purchased a bathtub enclosure. They took, of course, pictures. Well, I mean, they photographed and videotaped, I believe, if I remember correctly. That's standard practice.
Right. Okay. And did you participate in the wiretap and the recordings of the home and the telephones?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And when you were listening to that, was there anything significant that came that you heard while you were listening, especially about him knowing whether or not he was being recorded?
Of course, I don't know the date, but I just remember his sister called him on his landline. And of course, I can't remember her name, but they talked about, she warned him, I think she warned him not to speak on the phone because the police might be tapping the line. He said something to the effect, yeah, I know.
This is what he said.
That's what, I'm listening to them speak to each other
Right.
on the landline.
Right.
And he says, yes, I know, and these, excuse my language, he said, these whores, law enforcement, are going to try to pin this Holly Bobo case on me. And so we're going to have to watch it. And then the sister said something about, yeah, you remember when Mom and I burglarized those homes way back, whatever, the police did something to them to get them charged, and they were kind of arguing back and forth. And that's all I can really remember about it. I think it was like a 10-minute call.
What about him knowing that they were recording him?
Well, he said, yeah, I agree with you. Yes, I agree with you that there probably are these, like I said, he said, these whores, law enforcement, are going to try to pin this thing on me, and they'll probably do something like that. But they kept on talking,
Okay.
like they didn't care, even though they spoke about it.
Okay. And were you involved at all in the investigation of other suspects in this case?
What do you mean by others?
Well, I mean-
There were numerous people throughout in the very beginning.
Okay, will you just explain a little bit about that to the jury?
You mean name names?
No, but just how extensive the investigation was and what kind of evidence you had in the beginning to go over.
Well, we didn't seize any evidence. We ended up helping the TBI.
Right.
So they seized all the evidence at the house. So whatever evidence there is, they have.
Okay.
I ended up doing some interviews with Brent Booth of Clint, the day one, and of Drew Scott, the boyfriend, day one there outside the house. Then James Barnes, the neighbor. Kathy Wise, his mother, lived next door. There were numerous early suspects, and then we kind of moved on to others. And Brent Booth and I went and interviewed Terry Britt like a week after the event, because we're trying to catch up with all the sex offenders and get a interview of them, an official interview.
And at some point, did you determine that he had lied about his alibi?
Lied about his alibi?
Yes. The timing and everything about his
Well,
alibi?
I would have to look at my FD 302, that interview, but I want to say that, and I'm just at the top of my head, he gave us a different time, and I'm just trying to remember that I don't have that 302 in front of me. But I heard something on that.
What, 302?
FD 302, sir.
Okay, FD 302.
A federal document 302 is what we call an interview.
But she's taking down what we say, and sometimes not just you, but we get into acronyms or
Yes, sir.
document numbers and things.
We
Trying
call-
to make sure
all
our
interviews are done
record-
on an FD 302.
Okay.
All interviews, no matter
Explain
what
to
it
the
is.
jury what the 302 would be.
It's a interview report, federal document FD 302. All interviews are done on that document.
You mean a report,
A report, interview report, period.
and that's just the number. that
That's
you-
always been that way for decades. FD 302, we call it.
Okay. But you did a 302 on your meeting with Brent Booth. I mean, and Terry Britt.
Terry Britt. And again, I don't have that document, but I can't remember the exact times. But I just remember when we talked to him, Terry Britt insisted that he contact his wife, Janet, who was working at the newspaper, and she came out quickly. And she came to the house and right away went to the safe and got that receipt. And they talked about how they went to get the tub that morning.
Okay.
And then later on, after that phone call, that same day we're talking about that phone call, I heard also that same time, after he hung up, I heard on the microphone that that was installed inside the trailer. I heard Terry Britt say to Janet Britt, I recognize the voices. And he said that, again, they're going to hang those whores, law enforcement, are going to hang this case, Holly Bobo case, on me.
Okay.
He says, I didn't even know who, excuse my language, the bitch was, Holly, who the bitch was. And he says, I can't even remember what we did that day. And then Janet spoke up and says, we left the house about 10:30. We went to Camden. We bought that tub, and he says, oh yeah, I remember that old man sold us a $300 tub for $150. Then we went to Decaturville, came back to the house by 1, and that's son of a bitch cop came by and talked to me, asked me what I was doing that day.
Okay, so they were clearly repeating an alibi over in the house.
Yes, I heard it on the microphone.
And this is after they had acknowledged that they thought they were being recorded.
Yes, after they hung up. But the problem with that recording, that it was not recorded electronically, because apparently the phone call I think was, but the microphone was not recorded because I think there was a technical glitch where the microphone wasn't plugged in correctly, and there's not a recording, but there's a note that I made generally about what they said, but not in great detail, because I didn't want to go against the recording, because I only heard it one time.
Right.
So I didn't want it to conflict.
So, but what you're saying is you could hear it, but it wasn't preserved.
Right. But I believe I did, and once I heard it wasn't preserved electronically, I'm pretty sure I did an FD 302 about what I could remember, well, from what I heard on the microphone.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure there's one in the 5. Pretty sure.
Okay. No further questions.
Cross.
Were you aware that the blonde hair that was found was sent to the FBI, up to the laboratory?
Yes, sir.
Prepared DNA, it was not Holly
Your Honor,
Bobo's?
I'm going to object to this.
He can ask if he's aware of that. We went through this earlier.
But I think that's misleading as to what the report was, because they didn't test the DNA, they tested the mitochondrial DNA, and it came back.
Your Honor,
He can ask the question.
are you aware?
Yes, sir. It was not a DNA match. It was a microscopic match. She compared her hair, her known hair, from her brush and the hair there, and she said it was, but it was not a DNA match.
Exactly.
Yes.
Looked at it, saw whether or not it had similar characteristics like
Yes.
color and stuff like that.
Yes.
But then they actually did a DNA analysis and not hers.
Yeah, see, okay.
You talked about this little conversation that you heard that was first on the phone. And it was over the phone that either the sister or whoever said something about phones may be recorded or something like that.
Yes.
Is that correct? And it was after that phone call was hung up that you heard Mr. Britt and Miss Britt talking.
Yes, Janet Britt.
Did Mr. Britt or Janet Britt ever say anything like, I wonder if our house is bugged?
No, there's never any kind of mention of that. I think they had no idea whatsoever.
Just about the phones, no idea. Just one final thing. Did you have occasion in this investigation to speak with Dylan Adams?
Yes, I did in December.
Okay,
Yes,
go ahead.
December of 2011.
All right, and I'm not asking you what Dylan Adams said, but did anything unusual happen while you were talking to Dylan Adams?
I was sitting in my car at their house, and I was just wrapping up the interview of Dylan, and Zach drives up, and he sees me there and assumes I'm law enforcement. He gets out of the car and starts yelling at me, get the fuck out of here, and identify myself. He said, yeah, you get I left my car, and so I said, I'm leaving my car there, I just spoke to your brother. And he said, yeah, well, get the F out of here. So I just left.
No further questions.
One thing. document. To be clear, when Terry Britt is talking to his sister on the phone, they do talk about the fact that the house is potentially bugged.
I can't remember if they said the phone's tapped.
Okay.
I think they referred to the phone. I don't remember.
If I have a document, is there a document that might help refresh your memory?
Yes, yes.
We pass forward this document to you. See if you recognize. You need reading glasses. I do too.
Okay. And it's all in the highlighted section?
Yes, if you just review that, see if it refreshes your memory.
It sounds familiar, but there aren't any initials, and I can't remember the date, so I can't say if it's mine or not, to tell you the
Okay.
truth.
Does that refresh your memory, though, as to whether or not they thought that the house might also be bugged?
I don't remember the house being bugged, but definitely the phones. And like I said, I remember filling out a document for the TBI
Right.
to summarize the call, but there aren't any initials, so I can't positively identify it as being mine or not.
I'm just asking if it helps you remember them talking about the house being bugged.
I think he's Mr. Madam Judge.
I think he has answered a couple of times. Ask one more.
But I do remember the conversation, but I don't know if it's this conversation or not.
Okay. Okay, and what is the day that's documented there?
We're talking about the document that he doesn't recognize and doesn't know anything about.
He's not authenticated this document.
I would have to study the document for a little bit, and just,
Okay.
because it says January 18th, 2012, and I do remember the wire was going on then. That sounds about right.
Yes.
But I just can't remember the shift I was on, that kind of thing.
I mean, clearly you want to be crystal clear.
Yes, I can't speak about it if I haven't got my initials on it, if I don't recognize it exactly.
Okay.
But I do remember they talked about the phone being bugged or not, but they kept on speaking about it.
Okay.
But I can't say this is the right document or not.
Very good. No further questions.
Yeah. All right, you step down, you're free to go, sir.
All right, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Are you next?
Dave Barela.
Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Be seated, state your name, first and last, and spell it for the court recorder.
David Barela, that's Barela.
Mr. Barela, how are you employed presently?
I'm a private investigator.
Did you have law enforcement experience in your past?
Yes, sir, I'm a former special agent with the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command.
Did you have occasion to measure different calibers of bullets and do a photo lineup type thing?
Yes, sir.
Can I hand you some documents, see if you you remember them?
Yes, sir, I do.
Are these a fair and accurate representation of the documents you created or printed out?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, move these into the next two numbered exhibits?
All right, there's 3 of them,
Yes, sir.
28, 29, and 30.
Mr. Gonzalez, can you just tell me the order in which we combined the match?
32 is 228.
Okay.
The 380 is 229. 230. Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
If you look over your left shoulder there, is this the document you just reviewed?
Yes, sir.
What is this?
It's a 32 caliber APC
Why don't you
round.
identify your exhibit? Is that 228?
228, yes, sir.
All right.
Go ahead.
It is a 32 caliber bullet round.
And you see the bullet diameter listed on here?
Yes, sir. It's 0.125 inches.
Can you look at it again?
I'm sorry, 0.3125 inches.
And looking at 229, what is this?
That's a 380.
And what's the diameter of the 380?
The diameter of that is 0.355 inches.
Exhibit 230. And what is this?
This is a lineup of photographs that I submitted.
Did you do this lineup?
Yes, sir, I did.
And those annotations at the bottom of each bullet, or did you do those?
Yes, sir, I did.
And where did you get the diameters that are measured there?
I used a digital caliper that I measured each round, and then I documented that information onto the photograph.
And where did you measure on the round?
They're right above the casing, as close as I could to the top of the casing.
So like right here where the actual bullet meets the casing,
Yes, sir.
and you measured it with the caliper?
Yes, sir.
Now, you have both millimeters and inches on there, it looks like?
Yes, sir.
How did you go from one to the other?
The calipers I was using was digital, and all I did was hit a button, and it went from what I was reading in millimeters to inches. And I recorded that information on there.
And as to the 32, did you measure more than just one bullet?
Yes, sir.
And did it vary at all?
Yes, sir.
By how much would you say?
Minuscule amounts, but they still vary just a little bit.
That's all I have.
Ross?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Just to be clear, you're not an expert in ballistics, is that right?
That is correct.
And if I,
I think she wants to line up back up.
They're right there at the corner of the table.
Am I correct?
you are correct.
Not my first trial, actually.
And I'm putting back on the screen Exhibit 230, the lineup. If I heard you correctly, Mr. Barela, you said that you measured the diameter as close as you could to the top of the casing, is that correct?
Right at the top of the casing, measuring the bullet itself.
And these other two documents that have been put into evidence through you, these are more, I guess, what the manufacturer
Yes, ma'am.
would say that the diameter is of the various rounds, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So, let me grab my glasses. So, for instance, on the 32, which is third from the left, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
If we go to the, one of the two previous exhibits, according to the manufacturer, is supposed to be a .3125, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you say you measured?
I
In
measured
inches?
a .005 on that particular round.
And that's because, and this, I read your box at the bottom, this is ammunition you had on hand, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's because you measured it at the top.
Right at the edge of the casing, where the casing meets the actual bullet.
And if I told you that an expert in forensics and ballistics said that to get an accurate measurement, if you look over your left shoulder, you have to remove the projectile from the casing and measure at the bottom, would that surprise you?
No, ma'am, it would not.
Objection, what he's surprised at is not relevant.
It's objection overruled.
So it wouldn't surprise you. Would you also agree with me that when a person fires a weapon and the projectile goes forward, and in a revolver, the casing doesn't, correct?
Correct.
Objection, calling for opinion testimony.
He can state that.
And so, really, what hits the object, if it hits something, would be a different, and if it goes through something, that would be a different measurement than when you actually measure something inside of that casing, correct?
I'm assuming it would be because of the rifling on, in the barrel would change things a little bit.
The rifling would change it, and the fact that to fit inside something, it's got to be smaller. That's why it's called a casing. So what's inside would be slightly smaller than what's holding it. Doesn't that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not an engineer, ma'am.
Right. So that might account for perhaps the variance in what the manufacturer said the diameter of a caliber is and what you measured when you measured at the top of the casing, correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Are you an expert in how a bullet acts when it leaves the barrel?
No, sir.
Do you know about the effect that the length of a barrel has on how the bullet is stabilized once it leaves the barrel?
I'm not an expert at that, sir.
Are you an expert in the gyroscopic technique of twisting the bullet or rifling to stabilize it as it leaves the barrel?
No, sir, I'm not an expert at that. either.
Are you familiar with ballistics or engineering on how a bullet acts as it goes through the air per a given distance?
Not as an expert, no, sir.
Okay, so when she's asking you about what that bullet does after it leaves the gun, it was just speculation on your part, wasn't it?
From a layman's term, correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
Anything else?
Yes, sir.
All right. Step down, you're free to go. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Call your next. Raise your right hand, please. Thomas Webb, testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Be seated, state your first and last name, spell them for the court reporter.
No, I don't.
Travis Dunavant, TravisDunavant.
Mr. Dunavant, how are you currently employed?
Through Decatur County Sheriff's Office.
And how were you employed on April the 13th, 2011?
Through Decatur County Corrections, through the jail.
Okay. And that's still with the Sheriff's Department?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Ma'am,
No problem.
sorry.
Okay, and on April the 13th, you were called into duty regarding the disappearance of Holly Bobo, weren't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you made a report on that day? Or you
Yes,
made a
ma'am.
report regarding that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what was it that you were asked to do on that day?
I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to review the report.
would reviewing the report help you,
Yes, ma'am.
your memory? It's been a long time, hasn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Since that day.
Yes, ma'am.
So were you asked to check on sex offenders on that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you in fact go to Jeanette Holiday Road?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so who did you check on Jeanette Holiday Road?
Jeanette Holiday Road would be Mr. Brett's.
Okay. And was anyone home? What address does it say that Mr. Britt's residence is?
3138 Jeanette Holiday Road.
Okay. And does it say whether or not anybody was home at that time?
There was nobody at home.
Okay. And what does it say about cars that were there?
A red broken down van.
Okay. Were there other cars noted there?
No, ma'am.
And was that part of what you were asked to do, was go around and note what cars were at each residence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And does it say what time it was that you were there?
Not on Mr. Brett's.
Okay. Does it say, you visited somebody else on that same road? didn't
Yes,
you?
ma'am. Mr. Christensen,
So Mr. Christensen, what time were you at his house?
1340, 140
So 1:40?
p.m.
Okay, and what's his address? Is it 2800
Holiday Road.
Jeanette Holiday Road?
Holiday Road. 2800 Holiday Road. There's a
Okay.
difference between Holiday Road and Jeanette Holiday Road.
Okay, so that happens to say Holiday Road.
Yes, ma'am.
So you can extrapolate then, can you, what time you think you would have been to the next location?
Probably 15 minutes
Okay.
delay.
Okay, very good. I'll just take that back. Yeah. Okay, and when you got to 3138 Jeanette Holiday Road, did you knock on the door?
Sergeant Riker did.
Okay, and you were present with Sergeant Riker.
Yes, ma'am.
And did anybody answer the door?
No, ma'am.
Did you hear anybody moving around inside?
No, ma'am.
Okay. No further questions.
All right, step down, you're free to go. Call your next.
You'd like to call Dick Adams?
Raise your right hand, sir. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Be seated, state your first and last name, spell it for the benefit of the court reporter.
John D. Adams.
And will you spell your name, please? Spell your name, please.
JOHNDADAMS.
And do people call you Dick? Do you go by Dick?
That's right.
And Mr. Adams, how are you related to Zach Adams?
It's my grandson
Where do you live?
next door to me.
Now, where do you live?
Oh, I live at 260 Adams Lane,
Okay, and where did Zachary Adams live?
235 Adams Lane.
Okay. And does your house have a basement?
No,
And what about that Mr. Adams's house? Does it
No.
have a basement?
no.
And on April the 13th, 2011, the day Holly Bobo disappeared, who lived with you at your house?
Dylan Adams.
Okay, and who is Dylan Adams related? How is he related to you?
He's my grandson.
Okay, and how is he related to Zachary Adams?
He's his brother.
Okay. Let me ask you about guns. At any time around April 2011, did you know of Zach Adams to own a .32 revolver?
No,
Okay, and at that time, around April 2011, did you own a .32 revolver?
no,
Have you owned one since that time?
no.
Now, let me ask you about a well on your property. At one time, did 260 and 235 Adams Lane have a well?
Have a what?
A well, a water well?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and when was that?
In 88, we discontinued it in 88.
Say, and what did you do with the well? Why did you discontinue it?
We got seeded water.
Okay, and what did you do with the well once you discontinued it?
I filled it in.
Okay, so it's not a well that's a hole anymore?
No,
Okay. And in April of 2011, who was it that was living with Zachary Adams? Was anybody living with him?
Rebecca Earp lived with him at sometime in there. I don't exactly know when.
Okay, and how was she related to Zachary Adams?
Girlfriend.
Okay. Since Mr. Adams is your son, or grandson, do you happen to know what size shoe he wears?
13.
A 13. Okay, and do you have, at some time, did you come into possession of Croc shoes that belong to Mr. Adams?
Do I?
Croc shoes. Like to- Let me pass these shoes up to you. At any time, did you pick up some shoes from the Williamson County Jail for Mr. Adams?
I did.
And are those the shoes that you picked up from the Williamson County Jail?
Looks like it.
Okay. And what size are those shoes? If you turn them over, what size do they say they are?
Says 13.
13. Your Honor, we'd like to put those into evidence.
They will be admitted into evidence as 231, but later a photo will be substituted.
Yes, Your Honor.
I mean, it's kind of like the big boards. Once we finish this case, photos will be substituted for all these faulty items.
Yes.
Okay?
And can you tell me what your cellular telephone number was in April of 2011?
Do what?
What was your cell phone number in April of 2011?
My telephone number?
Yes,
Home or cell?
cell.
549-5002,
Okay, and what about your home number back then?
847-6566.
Okay. And did you provide a cellular telephone to your grandson, Zach Adams?
Yeah, I did.
And do you remember back in April of 2011, was it a flip phone?
I don't know what kind of phone it was.
Okay. Do you remember at some point turning over Dylan's flip phone to Brent Booth with the TBI?
I think he picked it up at the office. I'm not sure. And they also picked some up at my house, I think. I'm not sure.
Okay, but you remember turning some telephones over to them?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to ask you some questions about your grandson Dylan now. Now, Dylan, was he in special education when he was in school?
He was.
Okay, and why was he in special education?
He had a learning problem.
Okay, and does he have a high or a low IQ?
It's below average.
Okay, and are there certain things that Dylan cannot do in day-to-day life?
Yes.
What are those things?
Well, if he had a watch, he had to have a digital watch. He couldn't tell time.
Okay, can't tell time. What else?
He was bad to tell you a story, too.
Okay, so does that mean he's not clear sometimes on facts? And
Right.
what about money? Who handles his money?
Do I?
Who handles Dylan Adams' money?
I guess I did.
Okay. Is there a reason that Dylan lived with you?
He lived with me.
Why? Why was he living with you? Why didn't he have his own place?
Well, he lived with his mama till he was 18, then he moved in the house with me.
Right. Why didn't he go out and get his own apartment?
I don't know.
Well, was it related to the fact that he had a learning disability?
Yeah, and he wouldn't hold a job.
Okay. Let me ask you about Dennis Benjamin. Are you familiar with a man named Dennis Benjamin?
I just knew of him. He was a customer of ours on our water.
So when you say customer, you mean he's a water customer?
Yes.
Okay. And is he a close friend of the family?
No.
Is he a person that Dylan would have known or been close to?
I wouldn't think so.
I want to ask you also about your wife, Becky Adams. Can you please tell the jury when she died?
Do what?
When she died. When did Becky Adams die?
The last day of March. The last day of March. On Friday night. I was buried the 2nd.
She was buried on what day?
2nd of April,
April 2nd. And what year is that?
2010.
Okay, and then your grandson Zach, he was arrested shortly thereafter. Do you remember when he was arrested?
2000 was on the 4th, wasn't it?
Okay.
4th or 5th?
So April 4th, 2000, what year? Same year.
2010, yes.
11. If your wife died in 11, he was arrested in
He
2011.
actually testified in 2010.
Okay. I'm sorry, what year did your wife die?
2010?
Are you certain she died in 2010?
2010 or 2011? I don't know.
Do you know, in relation to when Holly Bobo disappeared,
That was 2010, wasn't it?
Well, if Holly Bobo disappeared in 2011, did your
Okay,
wife...
11.
So your wife died close in
2011.
time to the time Holly Bobo disappeared?
Just a few days before.
Okay, very good. Okay, so when Zach Adams was arrested, do you remember if he's arrested on April 4th, do you remember where he was arrested?
The way I understood it, in Natchez Trace Park.
Okay, and the car that he was driving, do you remember what car he happened to be driving when he was arrested on the 4th?
He was driving my pickup,
And what kind of pickup was that?
a Nissan,
What color was it?
white,
And what year was it?
98.
Okay, 98 white Nissan. Let me just see if I can pass you forward. I'd like to pass you forward, this is a copy, not the original, of a certificate of title. Do you recognize what that's the title to?
I do.
What is that the title to?
Do I?
What is it a title to?
Me?
To what? No. What car does it belong to?
Oh, that belongs to the 98 Nissan.
Okay. I'd like to put that in as an exhibit here.
232.
I don't wish to publish it to the jury. They've seen my file. So after he was arrested in your pickup truck, what did you do with that truck?
I went and picked it up at a towing service, brought it back to Betty Bell's house and put it in the shed.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to pass this forward to you. Do you recognize what that is?
That's where I picked it up.
So that's a tow receipt
Yeah,
from where you, and did you pay to get the car?
rest,
You, the one that paid the money?
yes.
Okay. And now, how long was it there at the, is it Don's Towing?
Don's Body Shop.
And how long was it there for?
I really don't know. Somebody called me, and I believe they said if I picked it up within 3 days, there wouldn't be any late charge.
Okay.
No objection.
So within 3 days, it wouldn't be a what?
A late fee,
Okay, and so is there a late fee that's documented
No.
on that?
no.
Okay, so, Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to put this
All right,
receipt.
Exhibit 233.
So you picked it up within 2 to 3 days of the time that it was towed in from the arrest, is that right?
Yes,
Okay. And, had it, and you said you took it to Billy Bell's mother's house?
Billy Bell's mother, yes.
Okay, now who is Billy Bell?
Who is Billy Bell?
Yes. Explain to the jury, please, who Billy Bell is.
Well, he's a friend of mine, and he works with me.
Okay. And who is his mother? What's her name?
Betty,
And why did you take it to his mother's house?
she's the one carried me up there to get it.
Okay.
She
So,
was a friend of the family.
okay. So she drove you over to, where was it originally towed to? What city?
Lexington.
Okay. So she drove you over there, and why would you not just bring it back home?
Well, I didn't want to have it there where I'd have to, he'd want to drive it again. He wasn't supposed to be driving it.
Why was he not supposed to be driving?
He didn't have a driver license.
Ah. So, you didn't want him to drive it, and so who had the keys to this car?
He did at that time, and when he went anywhere in it, he was his girlfriend or somebody drove him.
Okay, no, but let's go back to the white truck. When you picked up the truck from the tow lot, where were the keys to the truck?
They were in it.
Okay, and whose keys were those? Were those your keys or were those
There wasn't but
Zachary's
one
keys?
set.
Okay, one set of keys.
Right.
They were in the truck. And you picked up the truck, you drove it to Billy Bell's mother's house. What did you do with the keys then?
I carried them home with me.
How do you know that Zachary Adams didn't go into your house and get those keys at some point?
I don't know. I know he did. I had them,
Yes?
so he'd had to take them away from me.
Okay, so you kept them on you so that he couldn't get the truck.
Right.
And you know that he didn't at any point take those keys away from your person?
Right.
Okay. And so how long did the truck stay there?
I'd say nearly 2 weeks.
And And so during that time, did he know where the truck was?
Who?
Did Zachary Adams know where the truck
No.
was? What did you tell him about the truck?
I don't remember him asking me.
Okay. Okay. Now, on April the 13th, 2011, were there other cars at your house for Zachary Adams to drive?
Other cars?
Yes. What cars did you personally own?
I owned a van.
A van?
Yes.
And who drove that van?
I did.
Okay. What else did you own?
That was all I owned.
And what about Zach? Did he own any other cars?
He had two trucks sitting there.
Okay.
One of them was tore up, the other one was wrecked.
Okay, so which one was wrecked?
An 03 Chevrolet.
Okay, and when did it get wrecked?
I'm not sure.
Was it before or
It
after?
was before, yes.
Okay. And who wrecked it?
Zachary.
Okay. And was it wrecked just days before, or was it wrecked significant time before?
No, it was wrecked weeks before.
Okay. And then what was the other car that was there?
It was a 2094 Nissan.
2094?
I mean, a 94 Nissan.
Okay.
Four-wheel drive truck. Had a radiator busted or something on it.
How did the radiator get busted?
I think he running in a treetop. And
What do
some
you mean,
limbs.
a treetop? What does that mean? He ran it into a treetop
Well, it punctured the radiator.
with a tree branch? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. And what about Dylan? What kind of truck did Dylan have?
Dylan had a 2006 Silverado pickup, skinny cab.
Okay. And who had the keys to that truck?
Dylan.
Okay. So if Zachary would have wanted to have driven that truck, who would he have had to have gotten the keys from?
If he'd what?
If he were going to drive Dylan's truck, who would he have needed to get the keys from to
From
drive
Dylan.
it? Okay. And did Dylan make it a regular habit to loan Zach his truck?
He wasn't in the habit of it, no.
Okay. And on April the 13th, the day that Holly Bobo disappeared, do you remember what time you left for work that day?
It was probably 7 to 7:30.
Okay. And where was Dylan that morning when you left for work?
He was in the bed.
Okay. And the bed at your house?
Right.
Okay. And that morning, did you happen to see Zach, Dylan, and Shane on April the 13th, 2011, the day
I
that
did.
Holly disappeared?
I did.
Where did you see them?
They was on 641 highway. They'd come across the interstate and headed south.
Okay. And where were you at that time?
I was there. I don't remember where I was coming out from the Shell station, or I was there at the Shell station. I might have been turning in or coming out.
Okay. But how do you specifically remember it so many years later? Did you have anything that helped you with your memory?
Yes, I did.
What was that?
Shane, name had already been thrown out.
Okay, but I'm saying that day, how did you remember where you were and what you were doing that day?
Because, like I said, his name had already been thrown out. I'd heard a lot about her disappearance. His name had been thrown out, and I seen him in the truck with them.
Okay. And so the way you remembered it is just stuck in your head, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay. Did you also keep a log at that time?
I did.
Okay. Do you still keep a log?
Do.
Do you still keep a log
I do.
of what you do? And it's kind of a daily diary.
That's it.
And what do you record in your log?
Usually what we do that day.
And by what you do, you mean work-wise?
What we do, if we fix a leak, check meters, whatever we do that day.
While she's looking at that, let me ask you, what color was that 94 Nissan truck that you had?
There was two there, they was black.
So,
One was regular cab and one was extended cab.
okay, but one of them was white, the 98 was white,
Was white,
and it was a Nissan,
yes,
and then the 94 was black.
black.
It was
That belonged to Zach.
okay, and it was a Nissan.
The other Nissan was a regular cab. I bought it for Dylan, it never did run.
Okay. Can I have my one page back on your and I'd like to pass forward to you a page out of your diary that you have. Now that diary page doesn't specifically mention anything about seeing Zach Adams that day, does it?
What?
That diary page doesn't specifically mention that you saw Zach Adams on the highway that day.
No,
Okay. And can you read it to us? What does it say?
the rest of it,
Yeah, what does the diary say?
well, it said we met Jug and Siegler at Siegler's house and fixed the blow off where the county had hit it with a bush hog. Turned water on for Smith property, meter covered up. Just business is
So-
what I kept on the log.
Okay. But it's through that it jogged your memory where you were that day when you saw Zach Adams. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you were actually going from one job to another?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to have that marked as an exhibit.
234.
And over the years, you allowed various people to come in and search your property for Holly, didn't you?
Sure.
And you don't have any facts that that you know of that would point to Zach Adams being involved in this kidnapping, do you?
No.
If you had known facts that led to Zach Adams being involved, would you have told?
I guess I believe I would.
Okay. No further questions? Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Adams. Can you hear me?
Barely.
All right. Now I'm going to get a little closer.
Okay.
How's this?
That's better.
Is that a lot better?
That's a lot better.
All right, I understand. I have trouble hearing myself. The day that Ms. Thompson has asked you about, April the 13th, 2011,
Okay.
that's the day that Holly was missing.
Right.
You and Billy were working that day like you do most days, right?
That's right.
Now, I understand that when you get to work, sometimes you get there a little bit early, sometimes he gets there a little bit early, and you hang out some.
Yes,
And then when you get back to the office, sometimes you hang out there a little while after
right,
to make sure there's no more calls that come in.
whatever comes up.
Yeah. And sometimes, and I understand from Billy that you're the person that keeps the logs on, or the log on where you go.
I'm the one that has to report it.
Right. And so on this particular day, I was reading what you wrote, I was reading along with you, and you met Jug at the Siegler's, is that right? Siegler's, to fix a blow off.
Right,
And then you went to the Smith property, right?
Right.
I guess the meter covered up or tried to turn water off or something?
right.
Okay. Now, you don't say in here how you got from one of the jobs to the other, though, right?
No,
Okay. Sounds like you don't need to, that you're pretty familiar with the roads and what.
Right.
Okay. Now, do you remember on July the 14th of the same year that, let's see, Ricky Inman and Terry Dykus came to the office to talk to you?
I talked to several.
Oh, I know. This was about 11:15 in the morning. You know Ricky Inman though, right?
I know Ricky Inman.
Okay, and you know Terry Dykus, right?
Who?
Terry Dykus, TBI? Does that ring a bell?
No,
Okay, but you know Inman. You remember
I know Inman.
Okay, you remember Inman coming to talk to you at some point?
I don't remember it, but
Okay. If Inman made a report that he came and talked to you, would you have any reason to think that that wasn't true?
no,
Okay. And they came to ask you what you knew about, or if anything, about Holly, right?
I don't remember it.
Okay. Not because they thought you were involved in any way, but they came to ask about your grandson and his friends, didn't they?
About the what?
About your grandson and his friends?
I don't remember. I don't remember him coming
Did you
up. I
make
remember.
Did you make the statement?
Your Honor, if he doesn't remember, then
She's gonna ask him if he made a statement.
if she's gonna ask him his opinion as to people's involvement, Your Honor.
So far, the question,
I object to her asking his opinion as to who would be involved, because I wasn't allowed to put on Terry Dykus' opinion as to who's involved.
Well, that's.
she wasn't asking that.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm going to ask this question, in case there's further objection, Your Honor, is because this is after the day where he just talked about the car being tucked away. So, anyway, did you make the statement, I don't know anyone specifically that you should look, but I would look at all of Zach's friends? Did you say that?
I don't remember that.
That's an
She
opinion.
can ask him if he said it, okay? He can either say, yes, I did, no, I didn't, I don't remember.
And in fact, I'm required to ask you before I can bring in extrinsic proof. Did you make that statement?
I don't remember it.
Okay. You don't remember it for sure? You didn't say it, you did say it, you just don't remember?
I don't
saying it?
remember it.
Okay. And do you remember them coming back to talk to you, like February of 2014, so like 3 years later, where Brent Booth and Chuck Baker came to talk to you again at the office?
I remember Brent Booth and Jeff Jackson.
Okay. Well, I think several people have been to talk to you, haven't they?
Yeah,
Okay. On this day, Brent Booth was there. Do you remember? Now, well, let me go back. So, that's my first one. When they talked to you in 2011, do you remember telling them that you were out in the field that day, which is what you just told us, that you were working that day, right?
Right. I don't remember it, but if they asked me, I told them.
Yeah, because that was where you were.
Yeah.
Right? And I hate to bring up something sad, but did you tell them all of that time is a blur for me because my wife passed away on April 1st, 2011 and was buried on April 3rd?
I don't remember telling them that.
Would that have been true though? When bad things
To some
happen?
extent,
Yeah, I mean, things things sometimes get blurry. Okay, so they were asking you about what you did, and you said you were working, because you worked, right?
Right.
I mean, we saw that, we read, you wrote the lot. Now, when they came back 3 years later to talk to you, about the same stuff, it's always about the same stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you remember telling them that day that you knew about seeing Zach and Dylan and Shane in Zach's truck, the dark green 2003 Chevy, because they were in front of the Shell station at the 126 exit and were traveling south, and that it was at 10 o'clock in the morning?
I don't remember the 10 o'clock, but I remember telling them I'd seen them.
Okay. So when they came to talk to you right after it happened, you didn't remember, right?
I did remember.
Right when it happened?
I remembered the day it happened. I seen Zane and
Okay.
Zach.
So, but when law enforcement asked you about it, you told them you didn't remember it?
No, I didn't.
Okay. But then you later came to remember not only that you saw them, but exactly what road you were on, what exit you were on, what gas station you were at, and which way they were traveling.
I remember that well.
Okay. Is there any reason that you didn't tell them about that 3 years before?
I don't remember them asking me that 3 years before.
Okay. So by the time they came back to talk to you, your grandson's name was still out there, wasn't it? Was Shane's?
Yeah.
Do you remember telling the law enforcement that Shane was at Zach's house a lot during that time period?
I don't remember it.
Do you remember now?
No, I don't.
You don't remember Shane?
I don't remember. Not a lot.
Not a lot?
I've seen him there.
Yeah. In 2011?
I don't remember what year it was.
But you
I seen him
remember-
there after that.
Yeah. After
A
2011?
time or two. Yeah, I seen him. He come pick Dylan up. Dylan go pick him up.
Yeah. Remember saying that Zach and Shane were good friends during that time?
They've always been friends, I reckon.
And that did you make the statement, if Zach did this to Holly, he's a good candidate for it because of the people he runs with and all the things he is into,
I said he was a good candidate for it.
and that you don't ask him a lot of questions because I don't want him lying to me?
No, that's Dylan.
He needs to tell you what he did, and I will do everything in my power to help him, to make him cooperate. Did you tell, is that what you said?
No,
Did you tell law enforcement that
Do we know what day this is? That
she's
she's,
still on the same day?
what
Still-
day is that? What day?
July, same day we started with, activity date, same report.
This is the 3 years later.
This is after he's been arrested? Is this after March, or after they've searched the
This
house?
is 2/28/14.
Okay.
Do you remember telling law enforcement that Zach and Dylan don't work and they don't have any money except for what I give them?
I could have.
That would be true, correct?
Right.
You talked about Dylan. You said earlier that Dylan was slow. He needed a digital watch rather than
Right.
one with the hands. And he was in some special ed classes, right?
Do I?
He was in some special classes at school,
Special ed through school.
but he was able to drive. He could find his way from one place to the other.
He got his driver's license.
Right? So to get your driver's license, you have to be able to read. You
Right.
have to take the test. So the man can read.
Yeah.
He's able to feed himself.
Yeah.
He's able to get his clothes on.
Yeah.
You didn't have to pick out his clothes for him.
No.
He can knows his way around the kitchen if he's hungry. I'm not saying he's a chef, but he can fix himself something to eat.
He did.
He could work. He just didn't keep a job, is what you said, right?
Right.
So he was slow, but it didn't affect his ability to make it through the day. In other words, he didn't need a babysitter. He didn't need somebody holding his hand, right?
Right.
Okay. one moment. Now, do you remember Mr. Booth, Brent Booth, and I coming to your house to talk to you a few months ago?
Sure,
Okay, and I'd never met you before that.
right.
And I asked you on that day about a 911 call, actually a couple of 911 calls that you made on, well, the day that Holly was missing, right?
That's what you told me, it was made then.
Right. And at that time when I asked you, you said that didn't happen.
I don't remember it.
And that when I asked you some more details about it, about what Zach was doing to make you call 911, you didn't remember that either.
I don't remember it.
Do you remember making any 911 call regarding Zach's behavior at your house?
Sure,
Okay. More than one?
yes.
Do you remember a night when you were asleep in bed, Dylan was there asleep, you said, and that Zach came up in there?
I'm going to object if they're going to mention some kind of 404B evidence this time.
It's the same, it's the call.
Is this the call?
Yes, sir.
We've already been through it.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
She can ask you if he remembers it.
Do you remember a night when you were asleep in bed, a Wednesday night, Dylan was in there, and Zachary burst into your house and jumped on you, woke you up trying to get guns out of your house?
I don't ever remember him waking me up to get a gun.
Okay. Do you remember him that same night trying to talk you into giving you his car key, your van key? Okay.
I remember him wanting the van keys. It's when he called the sheriff to me.
He called the sheriff on you?
Yes,
That was your work van, wasn't it?
yes,
Okay. That's not a van that you like to give him, is it?
no,
Okay. So that must be a different night. The night I'm talking.
that was in the daytime.
Oh, that was in the daytime. Okay. And do you remember him coming in your house at night and you actually having him getting guns and you having to get them away from him?
I had a gun his daddy bought me for my birthday. He wanted it for some reason, I wouldn't let him have it. But I don't remember it being a particular time.
Right. Was that in the daytime or was that at night?
It was one evening, it wasn't, I hadn't been in the bed
Okay.
either.
Different night. All right. Thank you, sir.
That it?
Yes, sir.
Done?
A minute, You know, around the time that they were searching your house regarding Holly Bobo's disappearance, so I'm talking about February of 2014. Do you remember when all the TBI agents descended on your property to search it? Do you remember that, Mr. Adams?
You sure?
Okay. And at that time, they were telling you that they were going to arrest Zach for the murder of Holly Bobo, weren't they?
Yes.
Okay. And they told you that they knew he had done it. They were confident, didn't they?
They said they had evidence.
Real evidence that he had done it.
Yes.
Okay. And that's when you talked to them and said you would talk to Zach and tell him he needed to tell police what he knew.
Yeah.
Because at that time you believed the police, what the police were telling you was true, didn't you?
I went to talk to him.
Okay. But you believed what the police were telling you at that time was true, didn't you?
They told me I needed
Okay,
to
well,
talk to him.
Okay. I don't want to get too much into hearsay. Hearsay is what they may have told you at another time. But, you were trying to get Zach to do what you thought was the right thing at the time.
Right.
Okay. And you've always tried to be honest with law enforcement, haven't you?
I have.
Okay. No further questions.
Done?
Yes, sir.
All right. You can be excused. You can come back in the courtroom if you'd like, okay?
Thank you.
Don't discuss your testimony with anyone.
Thank you.
We're gonna take, the afternoon recess, follow the rules, I can get that set. Call your next witness, please.
Billy Bell, actually, I think it's William Bell.
I kinda like Billy, it's catchy, Billy Bell. And then the mother's name, what was that? Betty Bell, maybe?
Betty Bell.
They go on my all-American name list. Raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Be seated, state your name, first and last, and spell them for the court reporter, please.
It's William Bell. I go by Billy, but William, WILLIAMBELL.
Okay. And I'd like to point your attention to the day that Holly Bobo disappeared, and that's April the 13th, 2011. Okay, and are you familiar with Dick Adams?
Yes.
Okay, and how do you know Dick Adams?
Him and his wife and my mom and dad was friends, been friends all my life.
Okay.
And I've knew him all my life, yeah.
Okay, and so then do you also work with Mr. Adams?
I do.
Okay, where do you work and what do you do?
Do what, ma'am?
Where do you work and what do you do?
We work at North Utility Water District, and we cover 2 counties, Decatur and Benton County.
Okay, and so many times on a day-to-day basis, do you work directly with Dick Adams?
Yes, it's usually me and him. We'll go out and do whatever we have to do.
Okay, so are you also familiar with Zachary Adams?
I am.
Okay. And let me ask you about a truck, a white Nissan truck that Dick Adams owned in April of 2011. Okay. Are you familiar with that truck?
Yes.
Okay, how is it that you're familiar with it? Will you just tell the jury?
We used to work in it. It was our work company truck.
Can you speak up just a little?
It was our work truck that we used all the time, our company truck that they paid him mileage for, but we used it on a daily basis.
Okay.
So I've rode a many miles in it.
Okay, and then at some point Dick was no longer using it for work.
The district bought a new company truck, and Dick was driving in that one at the time.
Okay.
And he stopped using the Nissan.
Okay, and so on April the 13th, do you have personal knowledge about where that truck was?
I think it was at my mom's house.
Okay, you said you think. Do you think
Well,
that or do you know that?
Everybody knows me, knows I'm a coon hunter, and I got dogs at my parents' house. I'm there at night feeding them, and I seen it at night when I pulled up there.
So you definitely saw it. When was the first time you saw it at your mother's house?
Me and my wife, I got married on April 1st. We was actually in Mexico. I flew back. We stayed for a while through our honeymoon. I flew back April the 6th. The Nissan truck was there on the 6th.
Okay, and then what about on the 13th?
I remember seeing it at night every time I was there.
Okay, so you're sure it was there at night on the 13th?
I think it was there for 2 to 3 weeks at night. That I can know at night.
Okay. Now, on the day that Holly disappeared, you were with Dick on that day doing various...
We was. I don't know exactly the time I clocked in. Usually either from 7 to 3, might have been 8 to 4. But that day we would probably stay there maybe to 9. I don't know. Usually we stay there at 9. Our office manager comes in. If she has a cause for us, we'd go out and.
Okay. And to be clear, on that day, you don't remember seeing Zach Adams driving around in a truck that day?
I do not remember seeing him that day.
Okay. So that's just to be perfectly honest and direct. You don't remember that?
I do not.
Okay. No further questions?
Cross.
Hi, Mr. Bell.
Hey,
You and I got this to you yesterday, I think?
Yes.
For a few minutes. I just have a couple of follow-ups, some things that we talked about yesterday. Because of everything that was going on with you, you got married, you went on your honeymoon,
Yeah.
you had to come back and live with your parents till your house was ready. You have a pretty good memory of this time frame, is what it seems like to me.
yeah,
Okay. And you told me that you were a coon hunter, very careful to keep your dogs on the same eating schedule, so if you want to hunt at night,
that's right.
you're not going to feed them before you go hunt.
Mhm.
Is that right?
That's right.
And so that's how you know that you would be at your mom's house around 10 p.m.
Yeah,
Now, it's my understanding that Dick and your mom, or I guess your mom had given Dick permission to put the white Nissan Frontier, had some like graphics on the side of it. Or
it did, it did.
behind the building in the back. I can't remember what you said yesterday.
Yeah, what I knew, because I had got back and it was already there.
Right.
Dick had told me that he went and got it out of impound. He actually drove his van to my mom's, where she carried him to get it out of impound and dropped him. Yeah, that's right. And then when he come back, he had two vehicles there, so he left the Nissan and hid it back there behind there's two red shop buildings. This is a big property. Left it behind in between the two shop buildings.
Okay, and are the shop buildings wider than the width of the truck?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so this property sits back off the road.
The house, it sits up on a hill, and then the shops are sitting even behind
Even
it.
behind that.
That's right.
And I believe you told me that though your mom is not in good health now, at the time, you thought her mind was okay in 2011?
It was probably better than it is now.
But not great.
No, absolutely.
Okay. And I believe you also told me that you believed that you were certain, without a doubt, that Zach Adams or anybody else could have come and gotten that truck out and your mom wouldn't have known it.
That's correct.
And because you are the kind of person you are and noticed the truck between the shops, you believe you would have noticed had it been gone after 10 p.m. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't not think it wasn't there when I pulled up there. I think it maybe would. If it wasn't there, I would have said, somebody got Dick's truck. But I think every time I pulled up there and fed to my dogs, it was at that property.
Is there, and you've used words like, I think I would have noticed, I think I would have said something, but the truth is, there is a possibility that the truck could have been gone for a night, and you might not have noticed it one night.
I mean, it could be. I guess. I mean, I had a lot going on. I was trying to get into our house, and it was actually on down the road and across the highway. We was remodeling it and yes, I had a lot going on.
Now, on another topic, Dick testified today. You told me that he kept a journal or sort of a log of what y'all did.
That's right.
Because you work with him on a daily basis, right?
That's right.
You still work with him.
Yes, yeah.
And you care about him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Went back to April the 13th, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And in his log, he said that he wrote, if it wrote on that day, Billy and I met Jug at Siegler's and fixed blow off, and something else. I couldn't read the writing. Do you remember that?
I had to hear that where we was at. I couldn't recall, exactly where we was at. But when he said that, it brought back memories of. I remember kind of how we went that day to get there, and I remember leaving the plant and the way we went. I remember hearing. I got a phone call. I don't know what time it was. I remember exactly where we was at. A friend of mine called me and said they took Dana's Bobo's daughter. And I said, I didn't even know he had a daughter. I knew of Clint, but I didn't know of Holly. And I just remember that exact place, and I remember how we went.
All right. Because you do remember that, and it's not surprising, that was quite a piece of information for you to get. Tell the jury exactly where you were and then the roads that you took to get to your next destination.
We was on Old State Highway 69, and it's rural. It runs. We run over to I think a road called Franks Road. Went down Franks Road to Duck Farm Road, and crossed the highway, crossed 641, going towards Yellow Springs or Pew Road, and we would have went around through there, and that would have connected back across to Jeanette or to Bible Hill Road. I know we went to down Bible Hill Road because I remember the 2010 flood. It had the bridge down at Holiday out of, we couldn't cross, so we had to take the Joe Holiday Road that bared around to Allen's property, and I remember that.
Did you and Dick go by the front of the Shell station at the 126 exit that day?
I can't remember.
Around 10 a.m.
I can't remember that.
When you say that, does that mean that's not the way you went?
If it's logged in where he had it logged in when we went
No,
that.
it wasn't logged in. I'm asking. I read
Ask the question.
you the log.
Yeah,
So now I'm asking you. And you just told us the direction you went.
that's the way I remember it.
And you don't remember going past exit 126. And you don't remember seeing.
Wait. He shook his head. You need to answer us. He's taking down what you say. I know you shook your head because I saw you.
No,
So no, you didn't go by the 126. Did you see? Well, first of all, do you know Zach Adams?
Yep, there you go.
yes,
again.
yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Everybody
Not
does
trying
that.
to embarrass you. A lot of people do it, but you need to speak out, okay?
I'm sorry.
So
Yes,
she's doing this to see if it's a yes or a no. And you said yes, correct?
yes,
Known him his whole life?
yes, I'm sorry.
We're gonna get you trained about the time we turn you loose, okay?
What about Dylan Adams?
Yes,
What about Shane Austin?
yes,
You know all three of them.
yes,
Would you have recognized him if you saw him at the Shell station?
yes.
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Further direction?
Yes, Mr. Bell, you did cross over 641 that day from Duck Farm Road to Pew Road, didn't you?
Yes,
That's the way you remember going.
that's right.
And when you crossed over 641, that's where 641 comes down from the Shell station towards Parsons, isn't it?
Yeah, we was on a rural. I mean, it's a rural area right there where it's right. Actually, Mr. Adams, Dick, they own on all four corners at that location,
Okay.
and we crossed over. I'm sorry, we crossed over to Pew Road and
Okay.
went that way.
Okay, and so it's possible that Zach Adams could have been in an oncoming car as you crossed over and you didn't see him?
It's possible.
Because
I mean,
you weren't paying careful attention that day to, I mean, you weren't particularly on the lookout for him at that time, were you?
That'd be correct.
Okay. No, okay.
Done? Follow up? Okay.
I know you care about him, but Dick Adams forgets stuff a lot, doesn't he?
Well, he's getting old. Yes. Yeah.
I understand, and I mean no disrespect. It's just a fact of life, isn't it?
I'm seeing it through my mom.
And I
What
appreciate
was your
that.
last statement? Something about your mom?
I said I'm seeing. She was asking about his mind.
Okay.
My mom's mind's bad.
Okay.
But I mean, he's. I don't. I mean, it's.
It's hard for you, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
Done?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Step down. You're free to go, or you can come back in the courtroom if you'd like. Or your next.
Your Honor, we call Linda Littlejohn.
solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God.
I do.
Be seated, state your name first and last, and spell it for the benefit of the court reporter.
Linda Littlejohn, LINDA LITTLEJOHN.
And how are you employed, Ms. Littlejohn?
I'm employed at the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Crime Laboratory in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay, and on April the 13th, or around in there, were you involved in an investigation regarding the disappearance of Holly Bobo?
I received some evidence in April of 2011, but I did not go to the crime scene.
Okay, but you were involved in processing some of that evidence?
Yes, I was. That's
And
correct.
some of that evidence that you were involved in processing was the a footprint that was found in a carport. Does that sound right?
A shoe print, yes.
Right, not footprint, shoe print. There's a difference.
Yes.
If you're technical about it. Okay. I'd like to see Exhibit 44, if I could. Those are not 44. 44 is a picture of a shoe print, not a footprint.
Your exhibit number again?
Okay, I have here 44, 40. No. I need some glasses for that one. 45, 46, and 47.
All right.
And I'd also like to direct your attention, just to save time, to a report that you did regarding exhibits 02A, 03A, 05D, and 05E, which is dated 5/25/11. Because what I've noticed in your office is you don't number your reports with a unique number. So you kind of have to go by date issued and then some side information.
Well, the lab number is on every piece of evidence in this case.
Right.
And
So do you see the report to which I am referring?
I do.
If I say those things? Okay. And so did you use this photograph or photographs, similar photographs of this shoe print in order to do some comparisons?
I used different photographs than these. On the gel lifts that were used to collect these shoe prints from the crime scene, I took photographs of those, enlarged those to scale, and then I compared those with the shoes.
Okay. So that's actually more technical even than a photograph would be.
It's more technical than these photographs, yes.
Okay, yes. And then based on that, did you also then do a comparison to shoes that came from Clint Bobo?
I did.
Okay, and if we can have that large bag of materials over there, the biggest of all the bags. And in there's going to be 2 shoes. Up to you a bag of shoes. Okay, if you look in that bag of shoes, are those some of the shoes that you examined? Can you tell what number those?
I can identify this bag with my case number, my exhibit number, and my initials.
And what exhibit number is that? Is that 5E and D? Or 5E, I guess.
Just
is
5E.
Okay.
these are the shoes. So I can
Okay.
identify it by, again, my case number and my initials.
And so
and
did
exhibit
you
number.
you compared those shoes with the gel shoe print that you had lifted off of, or that you had been provided?
Yes.
Okay. And are those shoes consistent with making the footprint that was lifted from the floor of the carport?
They are consistent with respect to size, shape, and tread design to the lift from the carport. That means that this shoe, this is the right shoe, could have made that print, or another shoe just like that. There were no individual characteristics, so I cannot say for sure that it was this shoe to the exclusion of all others.
Okay, so by individual characteristics, you would mean if like part of the tread were cut, or if there was something that made that tread different from the mold of the tread that would have made the sole of the shoe.
Yes, when shoes are made, class characteristics are put on the shoes by the manufacturer, that size, shape, and tread design. That comes from the mold that they are made out of. As you wear the shoes, it's possible that you'll get cuts, tears, and gouges on the bottom of those shoes that make them unique to that pair of shoes. And in this case, I was not able to find any of those on the shoe or in the print to conclude that this shoe could have made it. So it's just a class characteristic match. Means that a shoe like this or another one with these same type of class characteristics could have made it.
Okay, and I'd like to pass up a report to you, see if that looks like the same report to which you've been referring.
Yes, it is a copy of my official report.
And, Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to put this report into evidence.
235.
You can take the shoes back from me if you like.
Thank you.
You can take the photographs back from you if you like. And on these photographs, there's also another shoe print that does not related to the shoes that you. That was a flip-flop print. Is that what you decided?
I was not able to match the additional. There were 2 additional shoe prints, and I was not able to match those to any shoes that were submitted.
Okay. Very good. No further questions.
Cross.
Just a couple. You didn't actually go to the crime scene, right?
I did not.
Were you aware that there were literally hundreds of people at the crime scene by the time TDI arrived?
I've heard that. I do not know.
To your knowledge, were any other shoes from any of these hundreds of people ever submitted for comparison?
No, they were not.
Just the one pair having to do with Clint?
2 pair from Clint, and then maybe some additional that were found at different places, but not not identified from another person other than Clint Bobo.
Okay, so Shane Austin's shoes were never sent to you for comparison against these?
That's correct.
That's it, Judge.
Done?
Done, Your Honor.
All right, step down, you're free to go.
Thank you.
Call your next.
Amber Treat, Your Honor.
Last name? Treat?
Yes.
Raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Be seated, state your name first and last, spell it for the benefit of the court reporter.
First name is Amber, A-M-B-E-R. Last name Treat, T-R-E-A-T.
And how are you employed, Ms. Treat?
I'm a private investigator. I work with AK Investigations.
Okay, and in this case, did you happen to drive some specific routes in Decatur County?
Yes, I drove 3 separate routes.
Okay, and will you just explain to the jury kind of which routes you drove, where you went, and why did you do this?
I drove 3 routes. One was from the Yellow Springs Church, which is at Yellow Springs Road and Pugh Road. I drove that to the Tennessee River. under the I-40 bridge via Ward Hill Road. And then I returned to the church at Yellow Springs Road via a different route. And then the third route that I took was the tracking of Holly Bobo's cell phone from April 13th, 2011, based on the opinion of John Walker, who at the time was the senior inspector for the United States Marshal Service.
Yes. 1, 2, okay. And did you made documentation of your routes?
I did. I measured the routes for both time and distance.
I'd like to pass this up to you.
Thank you.
So let's start with the first route, throw. Each time you got to a different intersection, you made a notation of the time.
Correct. The time was kept on a stopwatch, and I lapped it each time I moved onto a new road. So
Okay.
the route, the time from one road to another is notated, as is the total elapsed time.
Okay, and then if you wanted to know how long it took to get between 2 points in the route, you just have to add up the different times to the different intersections, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And those were, you drove 3 different routes based on the directions that I gave you?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And Your Honor, at this time, we'd like to put those into evidence.
Are there, didn't she say she did it 3 times?
There's 3 different routes, yes, Your
All
Honor.
right, are all of them on one?
No, there's 3 different
All right,
sets.
that's what I need to know.
And we have the map pre-done, so there's no map drawing. Okay.
Exhibit 236, 237, 238.
Okay, so the one that goes from the Yellow Springs Church to the Tennessee River will be the first one. And that's based on a route that I gave you.
Correct, yes.
Okay, and then the one that goes from the Tennessee River to the Yellow Springs Church, that's based on a second route I gave you.
Yes.
This is the second one. And then the little loop around possible routes of Holly's cell phone is the third route that I gave you.
Yes.
Then, first one. So, if we look at this first report right here.
Why don't you go ahead and give us those levels?
You go from Yellow Springs Church to Duck Farm Road to Duck Road to McElwain Road. Is that right?
Yes, Yellow Springs Church to Duck Farm Road, Duck Farm to Duck Road, Duck Road to McElwain, McElwain to Old Highway 69, Old Highway 69 to Sugar Tree School Road, Sugar Tree School Road to North Morgan Creek, North Morgan Creek Road to Birdsong Road, and then Birdsong Road to Ward Hill Road, and then you access the river via a private route, which you cannot see on the map.
Okay, and then you've pre-marked a map here on your route on how you went, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Then the next one that goes from the Tennessee River back to Yellow Springs Methodist Church, what route did you take there?
For that, I started at the Tennessee River, the same location I ended on the first route, and I took the access road to Ward Hill Road, and instead of turning right, I went straight on Ward Hill, turned onto Nick's Landing Road, Nick's Landing to North Morgan Creek Road, North Morgan Creek to Sugar Tree School Road, Sugar Tree School Road to Old Highway 69, Old Highway 69 to McElwain Road, McElwain Road to Duck Road, Duck Road to Duck Farm Road, across to Pew, and then back to the church.
Okay. And how long did that route take you to come back?
That took approximately 32 minutes.
And the first route you took, technical problems. I think I hit it with my foot. Okay. And the route going there, how long did that take you?
The route going out there took approximately 26 minutes.
Okay, that one. And then you also drove a route kind of tracking a possible route of Holly's telephone pings that morning, is that right?
That's correct.
And how long did it take you to do that route total?
That route total was approximately 43 minutes.
Okay. Okay, no further questions?
Say, Cross,
Really quick, Judge, really quick.
want the lights up or down?
Doesn't matter, they can stay down.
Okay.
This won't take 2 or 3 minutes. Were you following the traffic laws when you were driving?
As best I could, I did not actually see any speed limit signs on any of the roads that I traveled.
If you weren't, I was going to prosecute you.
I'll give her a unity, okay?
Exactly. Is it fair to say that you weren't, as the expression goes, driving like a bat out of hell, trying to escape from something?
I would say I was driving the route to get a time.
Excuse me?
I was just driving the route to get a general time
Is that
from point A to point B.
So were you trying to follow traffic laws? That's all I'm asking. Were you driving as absolutely fast as you could, like a race car driver?
No,
or
sir.
Were you driving like a normal person?
I would say I was driving like a normal person.
That's all.
All right.
That's all I was asking.
Okay, I'm sorry, you said that was all that triggered something. You got some more questions?
That's it, Judge.
So that is all, okay. Anything else?
No, Your
All
Honor.
right, step down.
Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, that's our last witness we have today.
All right, we're gonna get you out of here early. It's warming up. We're in good shape time-wise. I hope you can take my word for it. I'm not gonna jinx it by telling you when I think you'll get it to start your deliberations, but we're moving along fairly well. Follow the instructions I gave you the first day. They're also listed in your notebook. We will continue this case in the morning, and I feel certain we'll have the proof completed. I'm hopeful that we can get closing arguments and get further than that, but I feel certain that we'll have the proof concluded. Is that a fair guesstimate tomorrow? They're saying, but don't hold us to it. It's a very important case. I've tried to allow both sides the liberty to try their case with their techniques as they felt they are led. You folks know I'm high-geared, I'm time compulsive, sometimes it's hard for me, but I want them to be able to fully explore their cases. So I don't want to jinx it, but we're getting to where we need to be. It's also warmed up considerably in here, although it's been better today so far. So follow those admonitions. We'll see you tomorrow.